let's move on to our final session of the day. And the topic is Best Practices for Finance and Payment App Security. So this session is moderated by Tushar Aggarwal, founder and CEO Stashfin, who is joined by Anand Kumar Bajaj, founder and CEO Pay Nearby, and Rohit Sinha, Director Sales Engineering, Meta and SE Asia, Zimperium. Please welcome all the panelists on stage.
Okay. I think we are in a very dangerous spot. Yeah. It's a last session of the day. So you guys need to really make it worth people's while.
Sure, we'll try our best.
Okay, so maybe I'll kick off the session and give some context on why this topic is so close to my heart. I'm Tushar. I'm the founder and CEO of Stashfin. We are a app-based lender which provides credit solutions to underserved and middle-served income segments of society. And because of the proliferation of digital lending and payments, a lot of underserved folks have now come in the ambit of financial services. And government regulations and government policies such as the Jan Dhan account and a host of other activities such as UPI have really prompted and spurred the growth of digital payments. So we have two very esteemed panelists who can talk about the security aspects of lending, payments, and infrastructure. And maybe I'll just introduce them briefly, and I'll request both Anand and Rohit to give their own backgrounds. So to my left is Anand Kumar Bajaj, the founder and CEO of Payoneer. And to his left is Rohit Sinha, Director of Engineering for Zimperium. So Anand and Rohit, welcome. Thank you very much for joining the panel.
Thank you. I'm Anand Kumar Bajaj. I'm founder of Nearby Technologies. And I'm a chartered accountant by academic qualification. I happen to own 6 patents in my work, 5 in banking and 6th came in retailing last year, which is all about the ONDC. We endeavor to take the high end of technologies to the bottom of the pyramid. Like Tushar said, the unbanked, underbanked, we believe there is a misbanked segment as well. So taking the technology in a simplified, sachetized, granularized manner to the universe is what we do through our million-plus retailers. We serve 150 million citizens and process $1 billion every month in sachetized financial services. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So my name is Rohit Sinha. I am the Director for Sales Engineering for Zimperium. So as Zimperium, we are a cybersecurity organization, and what we do is we secure your mobile. And when I say mobile, we secure your mobile devices and your mobile applications. So the way we are heading in the direction we are already heading into, where everything is on mobile, all the services that you work on, they are all mobile. So we are here to ensure that every service that you access, okay, they are all accessed in a secured way. So that's what we do as a profession. I'm a technocrat, now more into a business plus technical side of the world. So yeah, that's about me.
Okay, thank you again for your backgrounds. Maybe Rohit, I'll start with you. Would you mind describing the evolution of how financial services have moved from traditional paper-based forms of transactions to now perhaps app-based? And what sort of security challenges have come along with that evolution?
Right. Thank you, Tushar, for that question. Bringing up, it's very important we start, and this question probably would set the stage for the discussion that we'll have. So now, if you go back to the history, there was time where we had banks, and then people used to physically visit the banks, and then everything used to happen on paper and pen. That was the time. And from there, with the internet evolution, we started with internet banking. But now if you look at how many times, if I ask any one of you here, when was the last time you visited the bank? Or when was the last time you went to the web channel of the bank portal to access your banking services? Maybe long time, right? Today, everything is so handy on your mobile as an application, be it the banking application, and now with the latest trend with the FinTech application, it's so convenient for us to access these services on the click of a finger, right? So this is where we see we have evolved over the last 10, 15 years, and in the last 3, 4 years, there has been a leap forward, like especially India as a market, it has taken a leap forward when it comes to the fintech industry. So the way fintech industry has evolved, and thanks to people like Anand from Pay Nearby and other organizations, today I remember personally we used to go to these shops and then always it used to be payment like 10 rupees. You want to buy like any snacks and it used to be a card cash payment, right? You'd never expected these people to have a payment through a digital payment channel. But now if you go and look at all those stalls, everyone has got a QR code. Don't you make a payment today through that QR code? You take out your phone, you scan your QR code, and then it's done, right? So this is where we see that the evolution has happened, and that's why I say in the last 3, 4 years with the fintech industry evolution, that has taken a leap forward. But while all this is happening, and while India as a country, we are progressing into this area, we need to also ensure, like before going there, the cyber criminals, for them also, this whole leap forward has taken into attention. They are also now after these financial applications. They know this is where the money lies. And of course, we'll talk more about it, how the threats happen and what it can do. But while we are into this area, we have to ensure that there is someone looking at it, someone going after the cyber attacks, targeting these financial applications and everything.
Okay, so that's clearly an area of concern. And maybe you as a practitioner, Anand, would you mind describing for the benefit of the audience what steps you have taken to protect and make sure the customers which can transact on your platform are secure?
So, Tushar, ours is a very a different scenario where the security layer is just not about the app alone, where we, of course, do the 9 yards of security, but we do assisted digital services. We call it digital. The million plus retailers, the way we have to onboard them by not only doing their PAN validation from the source, doing a penny drop to know their bank account name, doing a iBlink live detection based ID auth, and the Pratyaksham Pramanam, the fact that you are you who you are right now, right here in front of me, and tag the lat long. In context of the transactions that we do, these are trustworthy retail kirana stores whom we further sanitize and bring it to a sovereign grade. Because what are they doing is, as an extension of the banking, they are sitting at a kirana store where citizens come and ask, 2 kilo aloo, 1 kilo pyaj, 500 rupees cash dena bhaiya. That 500 rupees cash is given in an assisted, trusted mode. The whole 2 years of prolonged lockdown that you have seen, the government of India was putting money in the bank account. These million plus retailers whom we call digital pradhan, they were dispensing cash in the hands of the citizen. So the responsibility of doing the 9 yards and the 200 yards additional is important. The fact that the lat long is tagged, we do geo-tagging, geo-sensing, geo-fencing, and geo-tolerate. How far can an agent do a transaction within 500 meters radius? And beyond that, it means there is a fraudulent attempt. So the whole other things that you have to do on the banking app, like a device binding with OTP verification, with your SIM card, auth, all are required. Your app login, a single app being used here and then in another moment used 100 kilometers away has to be barred. So you see the context in which the biometric-based auth into the Aadhaar vault is being taken away. The way we have to protect security is much more larger. आप भारत को रीबैंक करने खड़े हुए हैं. And I would tell that there is a distribution curve of 10% digitized. I call it digital savvy greedy segment, the digitized, and the 90% is the marginalized and subsidized segment. The responsibility of we bankers owning 6 patents is much more higher on magnitude, because then the segment that you are catering to is not tagging Nirmala Sitharaman and complaining. They bow on the knees and complain to the Almighty. हमारी बहुत फटती है उसमें. And the responsibility of taking the right technology in the sachetized manner to that Garib is important. All of you would be flying today, maybe tomorrow, to the airport. 700 रुपए का किराया है आपका. That 700 bucks is his monthly grocery bill. You have to do a lot of things to ensure that it goes in the right hand, in the right manner.
That's actually a great segue to another topic which I'd like to ask you, esteemed panelists. So I think we all agree that digital payments generates a trove of data. And I'll be curious to hear your point of view, and I'm sure the audience will be too, on what concerns you about digital payments and app-based lending or perhaps transaction data. And I know, Anand, you have experience across multiple geographies. You're describing examples on how certain bad actors can use or misuse data. And you as a practitioner, you have experience on how the Kirana store owner or perhaps the merchant is using or misusing data of the consumers. So maybe I'll start with you, Anand, first. Maybe describe some kind of concerns or threats you see around the world which are applicable for India as well.
Right. So definitely different geographies, since you brought that point, different geographies have different kind of concerns, right? And there are different priorities for in different areas. But let's look at what we have in India first, okay? We have our, Anand mentioned that these are the low-wage workers. Today they are also able to use our digital channel, right? And these people are spread all across the country. Now, they are not technical people, they are not security conscious people, they don't understand. Today, by some means, people have been able to have access to smartphones, okay? And they are able to access these services by means of phones in terms of the whatever digital apps that they are using, be it the banking app, be it the FinTech app, be it the payment application. They are able to do online purchases, order food. So, all these services which are now available to the people in the form of application. Now, let's look at what these devices are. These are typically a standard Android and iOS based smartphones. That is what is there in your and my pocket. Now, while my application, the financial app or the digital app that we are talking about is residing on that phone, this is the same phone on which this user, and including it includes everyone for people like us sitting here, all these people have got tons of other applications sitting on that same phone, right? You download an app from the store, you download it from a third-party store. Now, how do you know that that particular another app which is there on that phone, what if it's a malicious application? It is trying to now seek or information from my financial app. It's probably trying to get my credentials. It's probably trying to exfiltrate data from my application. It's probably trying to modify the transaction when I'm making a payment. So let's say, you have a QR code, you scan the QR code, you try to make a payment. But now, with the sophistication of attack, this payment can go to someone else, right? So while all these things happen, it becomes our responsibility as my own application that we ensure that when my app is running on these end users' devices, this runs in a safe and secured environment. I'll take 1 minute more, but it's important to give an example. Today we are here in this event, right? And we all were experiencing some bad connectivity with the internet. Yep. There are bad guy sitting like me over here. He can create probably a fake network, okay, in the name of an event today. And this, by the way, happens. In reality, it happens. I did not do it today, but people do it. Okay, they can create a fake network in the name of FinTech event free Wi-Fi, and I can assure you that there will be like half of you will go and connect to that particular network because all of you are seeking a Wi-Fi connectivity which is not available here. Once connected, you access your application and then your application is talking to the server, but all this traffic could be now intercepted by someone who has created that fake network. So how do I ensure that my traffic which is talking to my server, that is not going via this fake network? These are the kind of things that we see on the malware side of the world, on the network side of the world, on the devices itself could be compromised, and all of them pose a risk to my own application. So if a fraud that happens through my app, who would the end customer go to? They will go back to the app that they were using, to the entity that they were using. So that is where we see this is all that's heading to different areas, different countries have different risks. Particularly if I talk about India and markets like Turkey, here malwares are one of the biggest risks for everyone. Recently we discovered there are malicious apps which are targeting specific financial fintech applications. On the stage, I can't name anyone, but they were particularly targeting if your device has got this particular banking app on the device. If yes, then I go after you. So this is the kind of trends that we see in the cyber world today. Yeah, to you, Anand.
No, no, that's very meaningful. Actually, I got almost lost into this point, and it's a depth what you brought out. I had to ask him what was the question, and he reminded me that yes, this is so very deep actually that the identity that we all use, the KYC that we all do. Aarti Singh of Live Mint was just having this conversation with me that there is no regulation around the identity security. There are tons of companies who offer solutions around ID authentication, but like a PCI DSS, like any other format of data security, the Aadhaar vault, I am scared now after hearing you all the more that the data can actually reside somewhere else even for the identity. मेरा transaction क्या होगा मुझे उसकी परवाह नहीं है, but if my identity is residing somewhere else and is available to someone, I rather would, I don't know if this forum is appropriate to call out, regulator must bring in a imposition on additional audit or compliance for the identity service providing companies.
That's actually a good segue to my next question, which is, I'm curious to hear your point of view. Does India need specific regulation, or are we already over-regulated to protect and to address some of the concerns which both of you addressed?
See, I am delighted that the era in which we are operating, you and I are seeing changes every day, are actually driving changes every day. And I only respect the work that the regulator alongside is enabling. Nandan says that innovation leads regulation. Regulators are coming alongside and helping refine those innovations in a time-bound manner. Aishu, my Ed Factor partner, she said that motorcycle ka license diya aur aeroplane uda chale. Ye to nahi hona chahiye. This should not happen, that you are licensed for something and you are doing something else altogether. But I must recommend a few things, I will come to that, but the commendable work that the setting up of CDDP, the Committee for Deepening of Digital Payments done by the regulator, the RBI Innovation Hub, the RBI FinTech Department, and more important, the sandbox that has been announced by regulator is all that the regulator is enabling. Pay Nearby is happy. We were cleared for the second cohort of the cross-border remittance sandbox yesterday. And there is a lot of responsibility in bringing those new elements of technology, explaining it to the regulator, and then taking it to the masses. So there are two ways. You go and do your thingy and then get caught, or you rather take it and sanitize it through the regulator and then go. I think the sandbox is one such wonderful...
So no more regulation. It already, so the current framework addresses
hand in hand. It goes hand in hand. And yes, there is a learning that is required. It's like the Mercedes. The whole innovation is below the bonnet. All you see is steering and the pedal and accelerator, etc. that you see. But that whole thing behind helps you power much better. So if regulation is protecting you, you are driving it much better.
Okay, so I'm paraphrasing a little bit what you said. The framework exists. People have to follow the framework. Okay. Curious to hear your point of view, especially in the global context. Yeah. Do you want to see more regulation, less regulation, and if so, what that could be?
So I feel that we might, from the business side of it, we might already be overburdened with regulations already, and that's why the business may not want more of that coming in. But if we have to go, we have, I think, as a Digital India, we have set a target for ourselves, right? And if we have to go in that direction, maybe regulation is required in terms of security, and I always keep quoting in security because if we are not doing things in a secured way, right? You quoted Mercedes, all the innovation of Mercedes is in below the bonnet. But as you look at it, the amount of money that goes into the security when Mercedes brings their cars, right? So a major chunk of that is to have security. 6 airbags is probably the minimum that you would see. So similarly, when it comes to the financials, applications or the financial channel, the digital channel, the fintech channel that we are here for, some level of regulation is required to ensure that every organization or every entity starts taking appropriate steps, at least the basic steps, to ensure that my services which are being used by the users, they are used in a secured way. it's also important for the merchants or for the businesses, because for them, today brand is everything. If my users' data they get compromised, okay, where it directly impacts, it impacts my brand. We are all competing with each other into our space. No one wants, probably the brand reputation loss is the last thing that you would want. And the way cyber criminals are working, it can happen anytime to anyone. So to enforce things on the business, maybe some level of regulation is required. And I feel RBI in our case had brought in the regulations last year for the financial applications. They brought up guidelines which every banking app, every financial app needs to adhere to. People still have time to work on that. But yes, on the similar grounds, probably we need something on the fintech side of the world as well.
Tushar, can I ask your point of view? You are in lending as well, and how does the security play? How does the identity play in your arena?
No, look, that's a great question. I'm supposed to ask the questions, but I'm also happy to answer them. So maybe I'll set the context in what we do for a living. So we give out credit to people. We are principal lenders. We're an NBFC to people who are underserved and are largely not very well served by the traditional banking institutions. So there are two aspects of what we do. One aspect is that we have to offer very low-cost financial services to people. And all the challenges you described, we are ready-made, we worry about those. And then the second piece is we have to give out the capital. So, so in our context, it's very important that we weed out ID theft. The people who are applying to us are indeed who they are. So we're looking for something like what's the intent of the person applying. And the second aspect is ability to pay, because we are giving out credit. And the third aspect, which is not very shared about or not talked about, is really, which is, I think, what you kind of alluded to a little bit, is that, we feel that the church and the state can't be very separate in India. As lenders, we have to also start thinking about loan serviceability. Are we really offering the right person the right product? So in the first aspect, which is ID theft and data security, we spend a lot of time on that. We have a 90-person engineering team based in the US, India, Bangalore, to really look out for bad actors. And the second aspect, we look at a lot of different imprints. We're looking at the quality of the phone, what kind of social media imprint people have, obviously the bank statement people provided to us. And then obviously the biggest concern is that once we have all this data, how is it secure? Even within our fold, how do you make sure customer identifying information is not parsed by anyone, including our own employees? How do we make sure that it's available for regulators to view over a period of time? And how do we make sure that for the consumers as well, once they lose their phone, once they lose their app, they forget the PIN, how do we make sure that we can still service them? But look, you bring an interesting point, which is that, I have young kids at home, and they always talk about, we should be running, we should be eating, and we should be sleeping, and we should be great in school. So all what we spoke about is very relevant. But the aspect of cost, which you touched upon barely, I'll be curious to hear your point of view on who pays for this. Are there any low-cost solutions which you have built in your ecosystem, which can perhaps squeeze pennies but provide the same level of security and access your consumers demand? And I'm curious to also hear your point of view. Are there any solutions which you have gotten for India? Because I know you have a global audience, which are relevant for this part of the world, because largely the margins in this country are lesser compared to perhaps your global clientele. So I'll perhaps go to you first, Anand, and then...
No, that's... a job has to be done in the way it has to be done. Just because it is for a lower margin business, it does not absolve you from the responsibility. HSM security module does cost you 6 crore in the manner that you implement. And it is to be done that way. You can't cut corners. Where you are able to optimize it at scale. So the more you are able to scale faster, the better your pricing then is on the modules. With regard to any engineering that you have to do, you can't do a cheap, shoddy work on engineering or on user experience designs. The work is much more there, but it gets paid off through the mass volume that you are able to run for.
Okay, so you're saying that because the volume is so high, you can compensate yourself because a large base of consumers. Is that-
Absolutely. And the population for once in India is blessing because of that.
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
say.
Curious
So,
your point of
so
view.
we always say, security is like insurance policy. Okay, you take a policy, you pray nothing happens. 1 year passes by, and you feel, oh shit, pura paise barbaad hue, right? Is saal ke. So that's what it is. Security is all in insurance policy, but yes, we have to ensure that the cost of security should not become more than the cost of the risk that it brings to the impact of the risk that it brings to the business. That is also very important. So I cannot implement on securing something $100 where if that thing actually gets compromised, the impact of it is only $70 for me, right? Then it doesn't make any business sense. But at the same time, there has to be a cost which you may not be able to immediately see a business benefit out of it. And this is the challenges we see when we talk to the CISOs. CISOs understand, but then when it gets to the CFO and CEO, they might say, oh, what's the business benefit of this? Of course, it doesn't bring something immediately, but you have to look at it from that point where if there is an impact on it, the brand, how much of effort, time, energy you have spent over the years to create your brand, which people trust today. Can you take a chance of this getting, jeopardized, right? So this is where you pay that cost for the security.
There is no cost benefit analysis for this. This is the cost of doing business.
To the CEOs, CIOs, product managers, and people who are practitioners in the room, what would be the top 3 tips on security you would offer them based on your vast experience?
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that. So see,
Anand is saying I won't give the secret sauce away, and Rohit is saying I'll give it away. So I want to hear your point of view, but I'll still ask a question to you, Anand.
right. So definitely, see, today we are in this fintech event. We are in this hall talking about this security. All of you sitting here are in some form of the business where your business, your application, the way you are reaching out to the mass users, right, who are your end customers, the way you are rendering your services to these users in some or the other way in form of application. It's this mobile device, again, which I stated in the beginning, because of which you have been able to reach these mass users, right? So ensure that your app, which is being used there, I'm not expecting a top grade security on day one, of course not. But as your business grows, okay, you need to ensure that security goes hand in hand with it. To do the basics, at least ensure that your code, which is your application, that app itself is protected. No one should be able to take down your application from the store, do a reverse engineering, create a fake application, and then send it to your users only, and then they end up downloading a fake application thinking that it's your app. At least take that basic steps to ensure that my app is always safe and secured. Ensure that when your application is running on the end user's device, which are your customers, it's always run in a safe and secured manner. If they happen to connect to a bad network, you don't allow your application to run, because the end user is not responsible. It is you who is responsible to ensuring that my app, my user data, his credentials, his OTP, his transaction, they all transact in a secured way. So at least we should start taking that small steps till we reach to that level where we want a top grade military security for our app.
Thank you. Actually, 3 things we would recommend. One is to start with empathizing for the segment that you are building. That will give you great amount of insight. Second is to use it yourself as product managers, as engineering managers. Use it yourself for your own service so you are sure that this is the right thing that you have built. And third is be the customer service executive after the product is launched, because there is a lot of insight that you will hear to repair your product. So I think that should sum up the product managers.
Okay, that's great. Look, I think we are on the hour and running out of time, but I will ask the audience if you have a question, we can get the mic around to you. Oh, there's a question in the back.
Take this.
Hello.
We can hear you, sir.
Yeah, good evening to all of you. I actually come from cybersecurity background. We are a cybersecurity startup based out of Singapore. And we believe that the cost of cybersecurity can be reduced through automation. And that is what we do. And we believe that there is a gap between CISOs as Mr. Rohit rightly pointed out, that CISOs speak the technical language which CEOs do not understand, and hence there is no budget allocated to cybersecurity. So we actually solved that problem too, where we changed the language of the technical language and transform it to a strategic language for CEOs to understand, and that is where they can give a cybersecurity budget.
Okay, so no question, but I think very interesting points.
कंपनी का नाम भी बता दीजिए, इतना एडवर्टाइज कर दिया है तो.
We are X-Rater. X-Rater.
Okay, thank you for the question. Rohit, Anand, pleasure talking to you, and thank you for sharing insights. Please give them a good round of applause.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
I would like to thank all the panelists for joining us today. And with this, we have come to the end of Day 2 of FinTech Festival India, Mega Event 2022. I would like to thank all our guests, speakers who joined us and helped us make this event a success. And I would also like to thank our partners and exhibitors who have supported us throughout this journey.